My name is Michelle Aitken, and today I'd like to share some ideas with you from Michelle's studio. I've been working on my handy quilter Sweet 16 and making a whole cloth quilt. This quilt utilised some techniques shown here in this book inside the shell. I also used my Versa tool, and I used the handy quilter set of round circle rulers. Let's take a look and see how it was done.
My quilt has already been prepared and I'm all ready to go. So I'm just bringing up my bobbin thread and I'll just whip those threads to the side so that I'm ready to work. Now I've worked my quilt into a grid pattern, and the first thing that I'll do is place a couple of fixing stitches just onto the outside border of that grid, and I'm going to quilt a line down here. Now the reason why I'm starting with a line is that the line will help to stabilize the quilt sandwich and prevent any movement. So I'm just going to hold my Versa tool here and quilt down. Now you might think that it would be easier to use a longer ruler. In fact, that's not the case. The shorter Versa ruler or Versa tool allows me to just move one hand span at a time. My left hand is holding on to the ruler and my right hand is assisting in pushing the quilt through. Now I can work in any direction, but I personally find working in this direction a lot simpler and easier to do. Now, just by whipping that quilt around and trying not to drop, and here we go, we're ready to go again. I'm just zoomed in the camera so that you can see just a little tighter shot now of this Versa tool and the way that I'm holding it. I will tell you that it actually takes a fair amount of hand pressure to hold it in place and to push the quilt through. And I have put some sticky dots underneath my ruler just to help it to traction and hold on to the quilt sandwich. Now my stitch length hasn't been regulated. I don't have true stitch on my handy quilter at the moment. I personally think that that working with rulers is something that you really do want to have true stitch for. You should also know that these rulers are the exact thickness that you require them to be to enable you to use them with your handy quilter. Regular, too thin and dangerous to use. I'll just pull my thread through to enable me to release the quilt sandwich from the area of quilting and trim my threads. Now I'm ready to start doing the circles, and I'm using this ruler. It's going to be used in this instance to make a clamshell design, and I can line the center of the ruler marking up with the chalk marking on my grid that I've gridded. Can't quite see that, but I've lined it up, and here again my left hand is holding that ruler in position while my right hand forces the quilt into the right motion. Oops, my arm's just gotten in the way of that shot. just sometimes you need to fiddle around with the quilt and get the bulk, because that's just going to tire you out even more. And this is quite tiring now doing the clamshell. It's just, I have arthritis, and so I can really feel this in my hands and shoulders, but just working in short bursts of 20 minutes at a time is just fine. I can manage that. And you can see how easy this is, just to reposition that ruler and to carry on. And my hopping foot is just coming right along the edge of that, giving me a really lovely outline. And of course at the end of the row I'm left with a space to do a half of a clamshell, and I can line that up with the centre line up against that border edge that I've already quilted. Look at another angle for this, and I've just tightened up my shot again. I'll be starting with a half of a clamshell just to begin with. Just put my gloves on. You'll notice that I am using quilting gloves. Helps to hold everything in place. So I'll just try and line that up a little bit and slide it across to give me my half. I'll take a couple of small stitches now that I know where I'm about to start. Now these stitches just lock the quilting stitch so that I don't have to tie off my threads, and I can just hold on to those ends now and clip with them with a pair of scissors. And I think you can see just how snugly that foot just travels right along the side of the clamshell. The original grid I drew is just helping me to make sure that I'm keeping it in alignment as I'm working along, so that I'm not ending up on the diagonal or anything strange like that. And it's just a matter of taking it nice and slowly and just getting those stitches lovely and uniform. As I come to the end of that row, I'm just going to do a couple more locking stitches just to make sure that it doesn't unravel. I'm pulling my thread through the tension discs because of course you can't release that tension with your HQ Sweet 16. Trim my threads off and I'm ready to continue on. And so I'm going to do the entire centre of the quilt with these clamshell designs, and I'll just keep on moving through now until I've got them all done, and then I'm going to come back and do some various different patterns into these clamshells just to give you an idea of the different kinds of things that you can do. In the book that I told you about at the beginning, there are a whole lot of different kinds of embellishment type fills that you can put into your clamshells. Some of them are as simple as this loopy loop pattern, and some of them are a bit more intricate, but they are a lot of fun, and they certainly provide a bit more variety to your clam design. They work beautifully into borders and so forth, so just a bit of fun, and this is a great way to practice those techniques and to learn them. Now, I've actually chalked them into my quilt to begin with because every line is different. I wanted to just plan it out in advance, and chalking it was the easiest way to do that. But also the other good thing about chalking out or drawing your design is that you do develop a little muscle memory. It's just the term that we use to describe the fact that because you've drawn it, it feels natural to you and it becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it. So by chalking it in first, I've had the possibility of rehearsing or practicing this design, and then now that I'm stitching it, I can find that motion is quite natural to me. So don't be tempted to think that every design you stitch has to be just off the top of your head. It's quite okay to go through and do that planning process, and to know that it's going to look good. Whether you use chalk or not is entirely up to you. I'm just going to finish off in the little half pattern here and do a couple of lock-in stitches, pull through my thread and be able to cut my threads off. Now this pattern kind of looks like the Sydney Opera House. It's kind of cute. It could represent waves or feathers or indeed the Sydney Opera House, whatever you want it to, but really nice and easy to do. The first time I chalked it though, it felt kind of weird, and in this case I needed to mark, some half markings so that I kept the feathery things within the half of the clam. But that book explains exactly how I've gone about doing it and how you would do it at home. So not difficult to do, and it looks really, really impressive. You probably noticed that as I'm free motion stitching this, I'm going a lot faster than I was with the rulers. The rulers really require you to do very slow, deliberate stitching, whereas when I get to free motioning, I go pretty quickly. Of course, there's always a correlation between the speed of your hands and the speed of the stitching. After I finished off doing all my centre, I've come around and done a little V shape around the border, and now I'm actually using a smaller clamshell, just 4 inches now, to come around. That's because my border was divisible by 4, and I'm just coming around that one exactly the same as I did for the clamshells that I did in the centre of the quilt, except for that this is my outside border, and you can see it kind of forms an interesting pattern with the V shape that I've already done inside the narrow second border. So just coming all the way around that now. As you can see, using the rulers with the Sweet 16 is a really easy way of quilting your quilt and ensuring that you get a lovely, precise result.